Today's dedication is for Zahn, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Pantlaza Sun Favoured versus Sisay, Atla Palani, and Niv Mizzet Reborn. Something a little bit different in this video. I was pulling my hair out during this game, partly because I do so terribly and don't draw into any mana, but also because of some of the insane decisions that my opponents make. So I thought we could all play a fun little game in the comments section and leave timestamps for what you think are the worst plays or the plays that you find most annoying. So if you want to play along, I look forward to reading those comments, and let's get straight into the gameplay. Well, we've got Sylvan Library to try and draw in some stuff, so hopefully that sticks around. Draw into Eerie Interlude, we go for a Surveil land. Oh, actually this is an old list, so we don't have the Surveil lands, we'll go for a Tricycle one instead. The first spell is from the 5 colour player, a Chromatic Sphere. Can tap and sacrifice that to add a mana of any colour and draw. Decides to cycle mana through that straight away, simply to draw a card, so ends the turn at 7. Scion of Calamity, not seeing any ramp here, so hopefully we'll see some on the top with Sylvan Library. Oh, that hurts. A Counter Squall, wasn't expecting that from Niv Mizzet, but yeah, maybe gonna have to go for a tutor into something good with the Worldly Tutor. General Ferrous Rockerick, Kodama's Reach for Atla Palani, and Sisay, that is a Karn Silex. We can't pay life for stuff, so hopefully don't start drawing into the fetches that we might need. And then this is a Wrath on a permanent as well, which actually might buy us enough time to do something. A Beast Within. I think we're just going to have to rely on Worldly Tutor here, but we can hold up the Beast Within. 3-1 goes into the right. Esper Sentinel, we can pay the tax on from Atla Palani. And that is the first commander to hit play as well. Okay, we're at the end step. I was thinking of going for Topiary Stomper here in order to ramp, but that's actually double green, and we don't have double green, so yeah, this goes from bad to worse. We might have to go for the Intrepid Paleontologist, and that's just a dork that we'll be able to tap for mana. Let's just have a look with this. At least if we get down the dork here, then we might be able to draw into a land on the next turn and make a 5-drop. That's hopeful, but nothing else we can do here really, I don't think. So we draw into that, we'll just have to play it this turn and hope it survives, and then continue to keep our fingers crossed, because even with this surviving play there's still not a whole lot we can do. And at the end of the turn, Niv Mizzet points the Anguished Unmaking over at the commander. So, as usual, in games of Commander, I've been pointing it out recently. Players, as the formats got really fast, players have been playing all their interaction in the early game. Problem is they tend to run out of steam really quickly. I think a lot of the times, I don't know about this player in particular, but a lot of the times players just pull the trigger simply because they can. Anguished Unmaking onto Atla Palani isn't the worst though. Got himself a Golem token to be swinging in with this turn at the end step. A Hostage Taker now. Could get rid of our Dork if our opponent wants to try that hard. Yeah, instead goes for Esper Sentinel, that's probably a good idea. Can play that himself next turn or do it this turn if he gets into a land. Does decide to cast the Esper Sentinel for himself. Ended up with another Golem token by casting the Hostage Taker. Has 3 cards in hand now, but is hoping to draw with the Sentinel. 3-1 to the right, and a 4-4 down the middle. Atla Palani replayed for 6 mana. Chromatic Star, I'm hoping he pays the tax for this Esper Sentinel, because Niv Mizzet's already doing well, and the last thing we need him to do is refill his hand. Nope, allowing him to draw. Cracks the Chromatic Star to draw. Alright, and then cracks the Karn Silex. So, gets rid of our Dork. It's going to be one of those games. Gets rid of the Esper Sentinel at least, but leaves probably the biggest threat in play at the moment. Atla Palani survives that as well. And we're just not going to draw into lands, so Beast Within holding up. A Commander Sphere over here, and then 2 mana Saheeli. This is the one that can create a token that's a copy of another creature or artifact, and gets them another Golem token. So now we're being attacked for 5 mana. If I could blow up this, it's got protection from mono-coloured, but if I could blow that up I would have done with the Beast Within. As it stands now, the best thing we can do is not be a threat to our opponents, allow Atla Palani and Niv Mizzet to do stuff, and it might be that they run away with the game, but They also get to point their interaction at each other, not that Niv Mizzet with 2 cards in hand will have much left. Atla Palani makes the first egg token, and does have a sack outlet with the high market. Plays Rhythm of the Wild before cracking it, and that is entry and not cast, so whatever he gets off the egg token could have haste. Looks like he's sacrificing it here straight away, so gains a life, and reveals cards off the top with Atla Palani. Gets himself into an attack, so we'll get triple the tokens. He doesn't have a sack outlet really yet, so we'll give him some board wipe protection at least. Decides to give that a plus counter instead of giving it haste, which is funny because that has vigilance, so it could have just swung in straight away. Seeing a Lotus Veil from the 5 colour player who uses that mana for a Thran Dynamo, so in the bin now. He's got a Beast of Burden, a Plains and a Forest. I'm not going to bother with the Beast Within, just going to keep attempting to actually do something this game. Alright, there's a Castle Garenbriggs, so there's the additional green mana we needed, so we can now at least go for Greater Good, which does nothing, but it might eventually. Gloom Shrieker, that returns a permanent, I think. Yeah, returns a permanent from Graveyard's hand, so grabs himself a fetch. And then has the Saheeli create a token copy of the Gloom Shrieker, so gets the fetch he just played and cracked back into hand again. Better than pointing it at Hostage Taker, I suppose. The 2-3 and the 3-1 swing into the right. We get a 4-4 and a 2-1. Yeah, it was an odd board wipe with that Karn Silex. Not sure what our opponent was aiming for there. Making 3 egg tokens with Atla Palani thanks to the triple token generation on Oher Caslim. After which we see Claw of Gix. That can sacrifice any permanent, but they have to pay for it. So we'll see if Niv Mizzet starts to eat some damage here. Sacrifices to gain a life with Claw of Gix. And gets himself a Protean Hulk. We're going to see Protean Hulk combo straight away. Sacrifices the Claws of Gix, or the Protean Hulk to the Claws of Gix. So with this he can search for any number of creatures with total mana value 6 or less and put them straight in. Went after Terror of the Peaks and doesn't have a 1-drop apparently, so at least he's not just comboing off immediately. The next egg nets our opponent a Sagada, Host of Herons, and that is 5 damage from Terror of the Peaks. Points it at Hostage Taker. Good thing to get rid of so that Saheeli can't point itself over there, assuming that Niv Mizzet doesn't have mass reanimation. Sacrifices the last egg to get himself a Galter, and that is going to be 12 damage onto someone. These have come in with haste, by the way, so haste on this, haste on this. This has Riot, but doesn't have haste or a plus counter for some reason, so not sure what's going on there. Yeah, that's weird. Now, did he not point that 12 damage at a player? Oh, there's some weird plays going on here. 10 extra damage wasted on a Saheeli, and then swinging, spreading the damage, 12 damage to the left, 5 at us, and 7 to the right. Reigns of Power untaps all creatures you control and that of an opponent. Gain control of each other's creatures and they gain haste. Doesn't have a sack outlet in the form of a creature here, so Atla Palani can't make a bunch of tokens and then sacrifice them all, and those would stay in play under this player's control. Suppose he could make the 3 eggs anyway and await a board wipe. Instead, that's Teferi's protection, so he can keep hold of those creatures, because the trigger will occur here, but he can't give back the phase back creatures, I'm assuming. Which is an interesting piece of tech. Alright, so let's see if we get into the land we're desperate for here. Probably not. Oh, the cards do still go back to him, even though they're phased out, so yeah, not sure what that was in aid of, in all honesty. Maybe trying to encourage some damage over here. Yeah, all we can do is hold up Beast Within. Niv Mizzet Reborn, we can blow up with the Beast Within if we want to. Makes another Golem. For some reason, the General Ferrous Rockerick is still in play after that board wipe. So with 3 cards in hand, reveals the top 10. So what can we see here? Prismari Command, Coma, Expressive Iteration, Absorb, a Fracture, Assemble the Legion, Carder, and Lila. It was the Expressive Iteration that he kept from the Is It stuff, and I think everything else. Yeah, all the other guilds he can just keep hold of. Only swinging a 2-1 against this player because he's worried about the swing back, I assume. Means he's not tapping in towards us at least. It's annoying we don't have another non-land permanent, because we could blow it up for a Beast Within and then just sacrifice it to draw 3 and discard 3 and actually try and get into something relevant here. 4 turns behind at the moment. Soul Herder we did not know about, so he's gonna flicker his commander, you assume? Maybe flicker the Gloom Shrieker? Does flicker the Gloom Shrieker, so yeah, he has Hostage Taker or the Saheeli that he can grab back. Grabs the Hostage Taker. Again, I could have gone for Beast Within onto this so that it couldn't get the ETB, but I'm just trying to have these two take each other out. This guy's already down to 17, so might be that this player can do something about him next turn. It just buys us time. Atla Palani making 3 eggs again. Terror of the Peaks is equal to power. They have 0 power, so these don't matter. It's funny, if they could play the 3 mana rock that can buff the power by 1 of creatures of a certain colour, can't remember what it's called, but they could name green. It would turn the egg tokens into 1/1s, and then Terror of the Peaks, seeing these enter, the eggs could blow themselves up. Kind of narrow, but that is something you could do. Sacrifices an egg. Sees Samut will give haste to everything. This has double strike, vigilance and haste. Everything will just come in with a plus counter now thanks to Rhythm of the Wild. So going after creatures as opposed to hitting our opponent directly, he would have been down by 12 here. So he would have been down to 5 if he was making use of this Terror of the Peaks correctly. Been a weird game. Atla Palani again. That is a Zatalpa, so they'll have missed out on 9 damage to a player so far. Giving this haste instead of a plus counter, even though they've got haste on it twice, thanks to Samut. And again, wasting that damage. Now we see a Luminous Broodmoth, so gives him protection from board wipes, or his non-flyers anyway. So his flyers he has is Sigarda, the Terror, and Zatalpa has flying as well. Everything else will come back with a flying counter on it. Again, he's giving this thing haste instead of a plus counter. Points the 3 damage at Niv Mizzet Reborn. Aura Shard's going to start blowing stuff up. He hasn't just drawn into that, has he? He could have played this before getting the creatures down, so he could have been blowing up these golems. Yeah, damage being spread again, so that is 8, 9, 10, 11 damage going to the left. And he's got a flying blocker as well, a 12/12. Trampler, we get a 5/5 and a 5/4. And the 7/7 goes to the right. I would have just thrown everything in over here, but I can't be bothered working out combat damage at this point. Alright, so he's going to lose his Galter due to a triple block on the golems, although that will come back in with flying. The Mothman is going to kill off the Niv Mizzet, which he wants to have that killed off because he can replay it then. We will go after the Terror of the Peaks, and we'll have to pay the 3 life to do it. Might as well lose 2 less life and get rid of his creature while we're at it. That does mean he's going to be able to trigger the Aura Shards. Yeah, he gets 3 beast tokens thanks to his Oher-Tack. So now what you could do is blow up the golems and get more trample damage through. At the moment he's got 8, 9, 10, 11 in the air, and none of this damage going through. So yeah, he is going after golems. That should get rid of this player. Taking out all 3 of the golems. He's only got a 4/4 in the way of the 12/12, and yeah, missing those Terror of the Peaks triggers. Leaves that player at 1. Means he can't crack this at least. Sisse hasn't had the best of luck here either really, so we'll see what he can do here. Not a board wipe apparently. Skyship Weatherlight. When it enters, search your library for any number of artifacts or creatures, exile them and shuffle. And then 4 and tap, choose a card at random with it and put it into hand. Noteworthy over here that the Luminous Broodmoth did go down there, so not going to have protection from board wipes now. Exiles underneath, that is Wrath Caption, Joyra, Eye of Ramos, Erratic Portal, Power Matrix, Mox Amber, Crawl Space, Lotus Petal, Captain Sisse, Jaya Ballard, Multani, Arvad, Tangarth, Slimefoot and Squee, Joyra's Familiar, we'll get there eventually, Teferi, Khan, Sisse's Ring, Gerard, and Miri. So no idea what he's looking to do there. We are well and truly, well, we're done this game anyway, I think, but Sky Shroud Claim, too little too late, but we'll play it anyway, you never know. Took us until turn 8 to get into a piece of ramp. Best get the shot lands into play just in case we're desperate for life. Don't want to be shocking those in later. Hull Breach can destroy an artifact and an enchantment, so goes after the haste enabler and the sack outlet. Good targets. It does leave a scary aura shards in play though. And it's a board wipe we need, but I haven't been seeing board wipes a lot on Magic Online recently. Plays Carder, we've already seen that put into his hand previously. That can save him for a turn, can't it? Yeah, creatures your opponents control attack each combat and attack a player other than you. Orim's Chant is a target player can't cast spells this turn, and creatures can't attack this turn. Well, that buys us another turn. This is why you play it out. Don't think we've got much chance of winning this one, but at least we'll be able to do a tiny bit of something. So goes for the Atlapalani thing. He doesn't have to cast spells in order to activate the Atlapalani. Aura Shards is probably just going to wipe out a bunch of stuff here. Probably Sky Ship, Greater Good, and the Commander's Sphere. Oh, he's got the City of Brass switched off over here as well. Yeah, goes after Greater Good. A Golem, and the same Golem twice for some reason. So leaves the Sky Ship alone, which I'm not against because I want to see what he's actually trying to do here. Survived another combat at least. Sacks an egg, which allows him into Greater Gargadon. He'll want to suspend that in order to use it as a sack outlet, I think. That's what... Yeah, sacrifice an artifact, creature or land, but you can only do that while it's suspended. Otherwise it's just a dumb 9/7. So blows up the last Golem, leaves the Commander Sphere intact, and the legendary artifact over here. Silver Scrutiny, where X is 3. Just draw 3 cards with that. Wrath Weatherlight Stalwart is you can cast an instant or sorcery and tap 2 untap creatures when you do to draw. And we're still none the wiser what this guy's doing. Board wipe, please. Yeah, I think someone's playing a sick game with us here. Still can't afford Eerie Interlude onto our commander though, can we? We'll just play our commander and see what we get into for the fun of it. That allows us into Up the Beanstalk in order to draw a card when it enters. It might get us into Swords or a board wipe or something. Instead draws us a Geshath. Can't imagine we survive yet another turn cycle, but that's the type of play that we wanted to make on like turn 3 or 4. Last one standing is choose a creature at random and destroy the rest, so it's just a case of hoping this guy doesn't keep a creature, although the egg tokens will give him one, won't they? Might be that at least one of the creatures that's left in play over here has to swing in towards this guy to take him out because he's still relevant at 1 life. Just so happens to keep as a Talpa, and there's an egg token there as well. Why does he keep an egg token? Anyway, whatever. We'll return our commander back to the command zone. Typical that it gets blown up straight away. Gets 1 trigger on the Atlapalani, which allows him into a Seaborn Muse. Doesn't have his commander in play anymore though. Surprised he didn't grab Seaborn Muse with the Protean Hulk previously, because then the next turn he could have grabbed Terror of the Peaks instead, and then just gone off on all this stuff that was going on over here anyway. Plus making triple egg tokens every single turn. And there is a Hostage Taker, so he can now exile the... Yeah, it doesn't have hexproof or anything, so Talpa can go down. And the Aura Shards finally blew up the Sky Ship Weatherlight, by the way. So this is where those Terror of the Peaks misclicks have all come to fruition. Path to Exile won't do what he hopes it's going to do. Hostage Taker is still going to exile this thing. It will clear the way for Seaborn Muse to swing in over there and finally finish him off though. So he just decides to quit at that, which is a dick move because now Zatalpa is still in play. This is a total train wreck of a game. Zakama comes down and untaps all the lands. So yeah, we might have had a shot of getting one more turn in here. Like I said, I don't think we would have done anything, but we would have had half a chance if he'd just had some patience and actually allowed the Path to Exile to go off. And more importantly, the Hostage Taker to exile this. Plays the Great Henge after all the lands are untapped for only 2 mana. 3 cards in hand. Seaborn Muse along with Zakama is really good. Harmonic Prodigy will double up the triggers of Shaman and Wizards. The Atlapalani is a Shaman. We'll lose our Up the Beanstalk with Aura Shards. He draws a card to the Henge. Sacrifices his egg to the high market. Doesn't do anything without his commander in play. He can't quite attack with 3 or more creatures here. And it is us he's going after, so that's 8 plus 2 is 10 damage. Disenchant destroys the Great Henge. I would have been going after Aura Shards personally, although it depends what he's got in hand. I suppose losing his card draw is good. Not making use of Zakama, he could have been gaining 3 life multiple times a turn. We're not going to stick any creatures here anyway, thanks to that Zakama. So let's go. Now we're getting into the lands. This is some kind of sick joke the game's playing on us. Let's try the Gashath and just hope that he doesn't even know what this does. He is holding up priority, so looks as though he's aiming to do something. Both players holding up priority. Plays Urtai, Resurrected. Destroy a creature or planeswalker. Okay. And in response to... he doesn't even know what this is targeting yet, but he's pointing the lightning bolts at our creature. It might have been that this player was going to do something that's just going to add to this whole train wreck and target our Gashath. But instead by doing this, he's just inviting the Urtai to blow up something over here, which he might not have done there. So points it at the Zakama, which he might have been aiming for all along, but like I said, he can respond to the trigger there. Best to see what this is pointed at, because it might have gone on Gashath. Does a lightning bolt over to that thing in response. It still gets destroyed though. I think it's safe to say that we are going down next turn. So now it's a 13-8. He must have pumped... yeah, there's a Kessig Wolfram, so he's buffed that. That's 26 points of damage. And we get the 2 4s. So finally the game's over, seemingly. Yeah, and there we go. Well, we didn't keep the best hand, but still, drawing into your first land by turn 9, I think it was. We got into our first bit of ramp by like turn 7 or 8. I mean, that's just bad luck. There's nothing we're going to do about that. I think ultimately the game was entirely warped by terrible decisions and terrible plays by our opponents. That entire game was chaos incarnate, so can't feel too bad about losing that one. Some of the decisions made does make you scratch your head, and bad plays like that ultimately warp the entire outcome of the game. So let me know what you think of that in the comments. What do you think was the worst decision that was made? Leave us timestamps so that we can see about what specific play you're referring to. But hopefully you all got some sick enjoyment out of it anyway. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.